Warning. 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 Please be advised. The system of oppression wants all y'all wicked mad and foaming at the mouth, arguing with each other. That is the agenda. Divide, distract, and disenfranchise.
Good morning, Trumptopia. A special segment of the almost daily ZenCast. Hosted by the incorrigible Mr. Zeppo. Let's talk Trump.
Greetings and salutations, dear audience, and welcome to a Sprecher.com exclusive audio-only episode of Good Morning Trumptopia. I'm distinguishing now between episodes created exclusively on Sprecher and those created as part of the workflow for the many live stream segments or mini shows that I distribute on twitch.tv. You can explore the many dimensions of the Zeppoverse by visiting solo.to/Mr. Zeppo. Check out the headquarters for all the streaming twitch.tv/Mr. Zeppo, or find the YouTube page that mirrors all that content if you prefer YouTube. Visit the other lesser discussed dimensions, which we will be bringing to you in special focus episodes here on the Almost Daily ZenCast, an audio exclusive talk show style entertainment podcast where we focus on the radical intersection between socioeconomic political ideologies and the transcendent spiritual dimensions of this universe. Speaking of which, friends, we've got a false political prophet and a mini cult empire that refuses to unhinge itself enough to disseminate, not disseminate, that's the wrong word, to, not disambiguate. Dang it, I hate it when that happens. To dissolve back into the foamy, tumultuous mound of everyday nonsense. What am I trying to say? Let me put it to you this way, friends. Is the Dangling Pardons giveaway, will that be one of the final straws that finally gives the vast plurality of the self-hypnotized Trump base the impetus necessary, the trigger required to be like, oh snap, maybe this is a bit of a political cult and maybe I need to get up and out of it because that's a bridge too far for me. Am I mixing too many analogies? What does it mean? What does it mean that Donald J. Trump is offering at his own political rallies that he's holding as a sort of long-term preemptive maneuver towards positioning himself for 2024. He's offering the foot soldiers of Trumptopia, those who have been arrested and indicted and convicted of crimes in regards to the January 6th insurrection building surge, because it wasn't quite an invasion. They surged the building. They tried to vandalize the building, but I think they were also dealing with their own sort of like awe at like, wow, I've never really been in here, and this is kind of huge and big and so much America. Because there were these moments. There were the shots of peaceful, quote-unquote, protesters just milling about. But there was also tumultuous attempts at ludicrous violence and absurdly underprepared for political politicking in that building. If there's any doubt, by the way, of the plain simple reality of what happened over a year ago now, there's been for quite some time a very serious and very like trustworthy third-party compilation of all of the live streamed footage from January 6th. So, oh man, I don't have the notes in front of me, and I kind of forgot. I think was it Politico that did it? And I know. Put a pin in the discussion about how evil the news is. We've already talked about that on the corkboard. And I'm sure we'll talk about it again. I don't want to get distracted on that sidebar right now. All things that have been discussed before are acknowledged here presently. I forget what website it was, but very early on, I think it was Politico. Let me type it in. Let me see if I can find it right now in the moment, live for you on the air. If I'm not mistaken, well, there's a bunch of new... Okay, no. Let's try a different thing. Sorry for the dead air. I'm trying to find this site that I was just promoting. Video compilation. It's looking for a compilation video maker app. Well, there's a YouTube channel that has a posting that says video of compilation. That's not what I'm looking for. New York Times, Day of Rage. Parler. There it is. I think it's Parler. And what makes it believable, what makes it like above reproach, is that they compiled these videos from Parler, not Politico. I knew it was a P name. Here we go. Now the compilation is done by ProPublica, another P name. And the website is officially, I think, projectspropublica.org. And if you type in what Parler saw during the attack on the Capitol, ProPublica, you'll find it. That's the official title of the page. And it has a complete compilation of real, right there, from the people doing it, from the event. Not news coverage, not MSNBC, not Fox News. The compiled, live streamed public footage. I'm looking at a shot right now, and the tallest banner flag is the Rambo Trump. Which, I mean, really, who's buying that? The man is a doughy, snowflake effing simp boy. He just simps in private, for things that his base probably wouldn't like. And he's just not Rambo. He's not a Rambo at all. But I digress. There can be no doubt, right? Just watch this footage. There's plenty of other posts with claims of, but this is authoritative because they pulled it from Parler posts, and Parler is 100% at least it was at the time. I don't know how much it's changed. I haven't heard much about it since. But it was, at the time, from everything I was told, the site that was standing up for Trumptopian rights and taking in all Trumptopian silenced social media accounts. So what ProPublica did was compile from that site thousands of video clips. And as you scroll down the page, you advance down the timeline, and it's all spread out according to time. And there's a little barcode timeline thing. You can see what stuff is from just walking around DC, what is up near the Capitol, and what's actually just inside the Capitol. And you can click on just inside the Capitol, and then you only watch from, it literally just jumped to a clip of people pouring in through a broken window. There's been lots of debate, lots of discussion all year about who these people are, but there's plenty of evidence that all the distractionary claims that it was not Trump people, arguably bogus. That claim is bordering on demonstrably false. I don't want to go there with the full declaration. Now, are there nuanced caveats about people that were in the crowd? Maybe. Are there some truthiness? But watch this video footage. These are just Trumptopian, ordinary Joe Schmo people, right? And they're all acting pretty Trumptopian in terms of they aren't acting like suspicious, out-of-place plants pretending to be adoring Trump. These people look enthusiastically adoring of Trump and genuinely there because they believe the things that they are mindlessly chanting. For me, the resounding evidence that confirms that the vast majority of everyone there truly was a dyed-in-the-wool Trumptopian. And I don't mean that judgmentally. I just mean that as a disambiguation from standard Republican or, American of any other political ilk or preference. These folks all went home when Trump finally, several hours later, released a video lovingly coddling them, telling them that they were special and that they needed to go home. And they just went home. If the plurality or majority of this crowd was actually comprised of fakers, posers, and infiltrators that were there to make Trump look bad, quote unquote, do you think they would have just peacefully, wishy-washily, sort of with a look of confused disillusionment, go home? I'm watching, let's jump to the end. And you can watch these folks truly have this, sense, and there's interviews, right? There's people talking about what's going on. If you haven't yet, and I know for some people, it's still way too soon. And for others, it was never soon enough to have this kind of footage out. But projects.propublica.org/parlor-capital-videos/. The other bit of redonkulous evidence that this was all Trump people is that he's offering them pardons now. And there's something even crazier about that offer that is the impulse behind what I want to talk about today. There's lots of hubbub right now on both sides of the ideological, political echo chamber divide about this rally cry of Trump's. I'm gonna pardon all y'all when I get reelected. Let's take a quick auditory cleansing the palate entertainment break. DJ Zed, my imaginary animatronic sidekick, is looking at me a little impatient. I went a little over our opening block time sequence, but let's throw one on, DJ Zed. What are you sending me? Underneath a modulating Midnight Star, a melodic house remix live audio entertainment track made lovingly for your listening pleasure. Let's cleanse the palate, folks, and come right back to the discussion. Thank you, DJ Zed. Dear audience, head on over to facebook.com/the almost daily ZenCast. That's the Facebook official page for this audio podcast show. You can come on down and check out the things we talk about. Support the podcast. And yeah, I just posted that link. Lots of Trumtopian denialist thinking persists about January 6th. Share this link with those who need to see it for themselves. Projects ProPublica, Parlor, Capital Videos. Trump is offering these people pardons. I don't know how many hundreds now. Last time I was paying attention to it, I think they'd reached some 500, maybe 600 arrests. And in theory, the DOJ is working their way up the food chain. lots of hubbub about the January 6th committee, and the party, the party of freedom and accountability, the party of Benghazi, has been trying to slanderously shame and badmouth the 1-6 committee as illegitimate, as unconstitutional, all the usual boring, tired, overused tropes. I still don't even understand how unconstitutional works, because there's a lot of things that are considered constitutional that are in no way, shape, or form referred to in the Constitution. But we'll put a pin in that whole clusterfuck of ideas on the imaginary corkboard of the shared mental mind space that we create here as audience and host. We'll come back and visit that. Like, what does that even mean in an episode not too far in the future, I think. But let's talk about this pardon thing. I admit, I'll be the first to tell you, I did not watch the entire rally from which this claim is being reported, but I did see a sound clip. I did see a video clip, a soundbite worth of video. And he's offering pardons to those poor, suffering snowflakes that are being so badly mistreated by the American Justice Department. Oh, woe is me. Where was this concern for people being arrested by the Department of Justice when they were black and brown and Asian people protesting other issues? There wasn't. He wanted to lock them up and throw away the key. What's the difference here? But that's a whole sidebar. It's besides the point. Plenty of other people are discussing it, and I don't want to jump on anybody else's bandwagons here. Here's what I don't get, and what I'm surprised no one else I have not seen as of yet, and maybe they are, and I haven't seen it yet. If they are, by all means, please bring it to my attention. Bring me a link. Show me the news site. But I think that there's massive what the fuck now kind of implications in what Donald Trump said, given the operational belief that the Trumptopian base is operating under. A vast plurality. Whoa, I almost said plurality, like some sort of Scooby-Doo character. The vast plurality of the Trumptopian base clings to some variation, for there are many variations of the following statement, which is really weird, because if it's coming top down from the big orange top dog himself, from strapped Rambo Trump, you'd think it'd be a little bit more consistent. But there's a wide-ranging variety of claims pursuant to the election was stolen cluster of theories, because they're not very consistent there either, that indicate some attempt to rationalize that Trump is secretly still in office. Now, this begs all kinds of rational questions, which the Trump base is not very welcoming of, despite occasionally waving the question everything rational thinking banners, as they pretend to be super intellectually, Trumptopianly intellectually snooty about philosophically bogus sounding QAnon. But I digress. If he's secretly in control, if he's secretly still in some sort of secret black bag operation of undercover presidency, of which there are many different varying wiffly waffly claims thereof. He really won. He really is still in. He's really secretly. He's gonna remember that when he was gonna get reinstated. Why is he? And here's the big buggery question: why is he running for re-election Why is he offering pardons, which arguably might be illegal to offer in the way that he's offering them? I don't know. I'm not a scholar. I'm just saying it sniffs of it just stinks of political corruption, and there should be some obvious anti-political corruption regulatory rule about it in this world of regulations. And even if there aren't, even if there isn't, whatever is grammatically correct, even if there lacks a set of legal boundaries, it stinks of obviously not the right thing to do, not the right way to do it, to say, please reelect me and I will pardon you for your crimes that you did because I asked you to do them, which we're now being investigated for. But isn't there a big aha moment? If he needs your vote to get anything done because he needs to get reelected, then he's admitting tacitly that he lost. No matter what theory you believe in, by declaring that he's running again, he may never have given an acceptance speech, but he's tacitly admitting in his actions that he lost, and that in order to be in office again, he has to run through the election gauntlet again. Dun, dun, dun. Here's where I wish I had an in-house studio band just standing by so we can be like, no offense, DJ Zed, you are a miracle and a joy to kick around the multiverse with, but you can't play the piano for shit. You can't pick up a guitar. You would be part of the band. You wouldn't be replaced by the band. Stop arguing with me. DJ Zed's getting all interjectional in his stoic, silent, robot, animatronic body language. Where were we? Oh, dramatic music. Bum, bum, bum. He's running for re-election, you guys, because he lost the election. Now, we've already run through my overall thoughts about what I think is going on there with the claim that the election is stolen. It's a fundraiser gimmick from day one. And many of us tried to warn the Trumpopian base. And yet they bought into his lies. This, I hope, the following turn of events that are going to play out because of the direction and, evolution of the 1-6 committee. What is it now? 3 different jurisdictional, is that the right way to conjugate that? 3 different special investigation, now I forgot what they're, special grand jury investigations from 3 different jurisdictions. There's the sentence I'm trying to say. Donald Trump as a brand, I'm really surprised people are clinging to him and people are going to his rallies. He should be tarnished and washed up and already in the rearview mirror of people giving a flying fuck. He lost so many elections. He lost so many political fights. He lost so many legal fights in a court system that he packed with people who you would think would bend over to take it up the bum and do what he wanted, and they didn't. And I think he's been taciturn and outraged and weird about it, and also at a bit of a loss because of whatever the hell is going on with QAnon. Apparently, and again, I haven't been able to get it confirmed by anyone that I've known for a long time that is an adamant Q follower, they tend to get a little irate when I ask them questions like, how come QAnon hasn't dropped any new posts recently? But I think that the Trumptopian fantasy bubble is finally starting to dissolve or unravel. It's falling apart. And like I was waxing for a bit way too long the other day, a coalition purple tidal wave of supporting the Democrats. And I know there's a bunch of we'd rather not, and there's plenty, trust me, there's plenty I'm not super excited about going on with the Democratic Party. And many would wonder why I would pick and choose after going to such lengths to explain myself as being aware of and standing up for a path that lays beyond the dichotomy of this double-barrel echoed chamber. And that's the reason I'm inclined to vote, and I don't mean literally because I can't, but that I'm inclined to encourage the eligible voting public in the United States of America to vote pro Team Blue really hard the next 3 voting cycles. It's just to nail the coffin lid on the Trumptopian psychosis. The cult mentality that Trump was wronged can only be purged if Trump faces consequences, real and undeniable and undebunkable, consequences that can't be misconstrued too easily into a fear-mongering conspiracy theory about how the deep state is trying to subjugate the world by stifling Donald Trump. One can only hope and pray and try to psychically manifest the potential outcome that Liz Cheney, and as weird as it is for me to be saying this, because her father is like the Darth Vader. And so, but I guess that technically makes her the young Jedi Padawan forgotten girl sibling, right? Or girl offspring of the evil overlord. And I don't like to play the game of this person is evil and this person is virtuous and true, because, as I've pointed out many a time over the past several years, either on this show or other forms of social media, once you start thinking that way, once your team or tribe or political party or ideological family or whatever mental construct are the exclusively righteous ones and everyone else is judged as inferior because you're on a slippery slope to being the penultimate evil of all evils, then you've been manipulated, because all you can see is conflict. Every kind of difference is conflict. And dare I say it, that's at the core of both the Trumptopian manipulation and the dystopian. I'm still trying to find a really good new original coined terminology for what the equivalent, from my perspective, of Trumptopia is over on the delusional left. Because there is a sort of branch of the left, a sort of quadrant within their quadrant, a slice of that end of the spectrum that is beyond the pale in a similar, albeit totally different, fashion as Trumtopian dystopia is towards the right. Help me find that terminology. Now is not the time, though, to rage against the left as the left tries to play its part of like standing as the old guard against the Trumtopian sweep. We must, sorry for banging my teacup there, we must, it's more of a thermos mug, we must, I think, transcend political ideology. Please note that, right? We need to transcend tribalism. Yes, tribal thinking, tribalistic behaviors have some beneficial implications when taken seriously and not allowed to devolve into toxic overlord serfdom type regionality. But simultaneously, tribalism is what got us here. Tribalism is what gave birth to postmodern us versus them ideological, political tribalistic thinking that is a direct lineage to this dystopic Trumptopian versus Bluetopia, Lefttopia, Righttopia versus Lefttopia, whatever we want to call it. This right versus left, oppositional, conflict-oriented politics by ultimatum and one-upmanship and mutually assured crazy nonsense, it's not sustainable, friends. Now, I think that to take the measured path and try and heal the system from within, we first need to put an end peacefully, compassionately, and please, I hope you all tuning in and paying attention because this part's important, with spiritual care, because we are each other's keepers, right? Like the saying goes, I'm not my brother's keeper. Yes, actually, that's the problem. That's at the core of the problem of problems. We as a species have created this illusion of hyper-individuality, and we've neglected developing a healthy, balanced, organic, rooted, anchored in integrity and transparency and honesty and sincerity sense of collectivism, of taking care of each other. Somehow, that has become a dirty, dirty thing. Taking care of other people is bad. What the WTF, Trumptopia? And it's shocking the extent to which the echo chambers are getting away with it, and also being simultaneously called out by oppositional exposers of the system who, curiously enough, remain partisan, continue to act in us versus them tribalistic ways instead of unifying, right? Like, there are people calling out the left-wing media whilst blindly regurgitating talking points from right-wing media, and vice versa. And then there's people who are totalitarianly against all media, whilst curiously praising social media as some sort of inherently virtuous savior, which it's not. Right? Dear friends, the Trumptopian demographic is not an enemy. It's not an enemy either, whatever that is. It's not an M&M. despite all the recent outrage about the marketing. And I could throw in that really cheap joke about, I'm surprised Tucker Carlson doesn't want a certain kind of M&N to exist that doesn't exist. But I don't know. I feel dirty even thinking about it. I've said it before and I'll say it again. The left-wing barrel of the double echo chamber system manipulates those who are attracted to that set of ideologies through aspirational thinking. And while it is a form of manipulation, arguably it's a healthier form, and I know a lesser of two evils, whatever. But in terms of the immediate short term, they at least aren't pretending to be outraged about things unworthy of being outraged. They are aspiring to defend ideals that are kind of actually worth defending, and that more people on the right would agree with if they weren't so heavily indoctrinated to be heels in the mud, entrenched in mindless opposition. Right? The left still talks, it encourages denialism and mindless opposition to the right. It just does it in a much more subtle, less fomenting violence and chaos right on the surface kind of way. And quite urgently, I think the problem with Trump is that he knows he's playing in a rigged game, but I think deep down he doesn't know just how it's rigged. He doesn't know accurately or correctly where the corruption he's pretending to fight actually is. Because as I've pointed out, what corruption problems has he solved? I mean, you ask a Trump enthusiast about Trump's victories, and they'll give you a list of interesting things. But if you dig deep, like I love it when they're like, oh, he saved so many jobs. But you dig deep on the specific examples of what companies, and the saving of those jobs sort of seems to evaporate. Like with Carrier. That was an early canary in the coal mine warning sign. The Carrier air conditioning debacle where he supposedly saved a bunch of jobs, but the company was just like playing, was just shuffling the numbers around. What do you call that? What's that game that people play on the street and they bet for with cards and you shuffle them around? Not Pinochle. They were playing Pinochle with their numbers. No, they were playing whatever that's called. Follow the Queen. Why does the word walnuts keep wanting to come up? Sometimes my brains, folks. And it just gets worse when I turn on the cameras, which is why I am just exclusively with you. Just you and me here on the audio-exclusive Sprecher platform. I'm going to take a quick musical break, folks, and then we're going to try and tie all these crazy thoughts together and land on a closing argument for today's segment. Here's a little bit of fresh Synthetica robot dance music for your entertainment. Surreptitious soundscapes. DJ Zed working the Tech Bass Remix Live assets. Thank you, DJ Zed, for that delicious example of your work. We're going to tease it only a part of it and zoom in out right now. None of those words were exactly quite right. Do you appreciate the synthetica genre pioneered by the trans-dimensionally infamous animatronic DJ Zed? Then you can support his burgeoning Planet Dirt celebrity career by heading over to soundcloud.com/Mr. Zeppo. Check out the music of the Zeppoverse, sans witty chit-chat. Focus in on the music. Vote for your favorite tracks with hearts and other features. And get interactive, as it's a year-long project to cultivate the finest of the finest robot dance music synthetica. That's it. We've been tinkering with the way to properly label this genre, robot dance music synthetica. That's the genre, and you're interacting with that audio entertainment track playlist on the SoundCloud platform will help determine the final curated playlist, which will be minted at the end of the year as a deluxe music video NFT album. Tune in for that. The list is about to get updated as we will be purging and remixing and updrafting everything once a month. So in the next couple of days, that list will have about the bottom, I don't know, 10 tracks, maybe more, maybe less, cleared from the decks to make room for all new, fresh robot dance music synthetica. Fresh tracks will be dropping almost daily after the purge. Your votes determine the next round. Be sure to check it out. Okay, folks, so back to our, let's wrap up our discussion here, Trumptopian thinkers. Trumptopia is a mental phenomena. It's a psychological construct that existed long before Trump. And that's the real issue. But because Trump is and always has been a sort of symptomology of that very problem, and his ascendance into positions of political power sort of allowed him to co-opt the entire mental construct and make it his own. Now is the time to diligently focus our efforts to facilitate the raising of awareness and the manifestation of psycho-spiritual political healing. You can call me crazy if you want, but that to me is a real thing. And that to me sounds infinitely more effective than more ideologically driven political clown fighting. I don't know about you guys, but I think there's a path to righting this ship we call America. And I know that that's what everyone out there who does an America patriotism, kind of show talks about. And I mean, I get that sort of thinking. I am adjacent to that sort of thinking. But I'm also sort of like, I'm also not standing inside of that toxic patriotism mental box. Let's remember, folks, not only, let's remind Trumtopians diligently, with kindness, with empathy, with sympathy, with love in our hearts, and with an open outreached hand, because we have to prevent, they want civil war, right? And they're pretending, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, say no more. No, we're not openly calling for violence. We're just ready. That's their attitude. I've had those words said to me whilst discussing just how open the calls for violence are on the right. They claim that it's the left openly calling for violence. I don't see quite as many blatant and raw examples as I see on the left. I mean, on the right, on the left, you know what I mean? Mind you, I'm also not a leftist. I know that the left is, that there are components of the left foaming at the mouth for some kind of violent clash. And obviously, here's what's tragically obvious to me, which is why I tend to aggravate people on both sides. The two ideological echo chambers want to endlessly clash in an impossible war of fake virtue, where the virtue comes from winning, but there's nothing to win because both parties, both ideological tribes, both demographic segments are being bombarded with manipulative content, have plenty of flaws that are echo or mirror or totally different from each other, but the where they are equivalent is that there are flaws, big ones that must be addressed, big giant flaws that must be addressed, that the bases tend to turn a blind eye on about their own party, but lose their living shit about the other party. I know one thing for certain, because the last 10,000 years worth of violent history make it pretty obvious to me. Political ideological fighting leads to political ideological violence. And whilst there's some great sense of purging, some deep, apparently profound satisfaction in, quote, winning and destroying the opposition, quote unquote, it has not solved anything. If it had, pray tell, dear friends, why the bloody hell do we find ourselves in this clusterfuck of a dead-end dumpster fire train wreck? Time to do things differently, friends. Time to set aside all the quote-unquote common sense that we cling to and start really, truly building a consensus built around reality itself as it actually functions. Not a politician's proposed construct about how things should be. Not some bizarre and manipulative, neurolinguistic, riddled article of faith about what American should or is supposed to be. But the reality of what the human species actually is, and what this living biome, this living biodome, this living biosphere, this living womb, this living uterus that gives birth to us, what that really is. Because let's be honest, folks, up until now, doing things according to the made-up malarkey that all of society is built on hasn't panned out so hot. Because independent of whatever political party you think has got the answer, this is the fucking mess all of it got us into. And while it's easy to blame some nefarious group over there on the other side, or some nefarious occult group hiding in the shadows, manipulating everyone, deep down, we know that those fear-mongering accusations are fear-mongering accusations. Hyper-vilifying others in order to create a strong us versus them violence polemic. And it's probably created by those people, because those people are uniquely positioned to profit and profiteer, which is grotesque, right? Like, yeah, it's fine for a company to make a profit, but no company should be engaged in profiteering. And those people that many around the world are blindly outraged at, but also completely impotent to do anything about, except for maybe foment violence, those people are the ones poking and prodding everyone from all camps, in all quarters, in all directions, towards violence, because they, whoever they may be, are supremely positioned to profiteer on it. And even that, while it is the one thing everyone arguing has in common that they're neglecting, even that isn't going to solve the problem, because those people, just like Trump, just like everyone else, they are a symptomology of what's going on at the human species' spiritual, collective, metaphysical dimension. And that's the real power that the average, ordinary, everyday human being has. It is the species-wide birthright to realize one's true nature. It is a species-wide birthright to heal oneself from the centuries-long neglected spiritual, emotional, psychokinetic trauma, which is the deepest place of root source. The seed root ball, the core bulb. What kind of plants are those? What do you call those that come in bulbs? The perennials? That's the root of all the evil problems in the world. It isn't Trump himself. It isn't the deep state leftists. It isn't the cabal of so-and-so and what's his nuts over there, or these cabals over there. Those organizations and human endeavors may very well actually be doing some, if not all, of the scary things that the fear-mongering content fear-mongers about. But they're probably also the ones fear-mongering it. Now, we've talked about why I think they might benefit from doing so on previous episodes, and I'm sure I'll come full circle and talk about it some more in more episodes. Put a pin on it, because that's straying afield from the discussion I wanted to have today. And we've reached the hour mark, 60 minutes and 6 seconds. Bing! Dear friends, thank you for tuning in. Remember, this isn't about being outraged at Trump. This isn't about hating Trump. This isn't about hating the Trumptopian base. This is about reminding them that we are one big, unhappy, turbulent family of families. That we are one big, turbulent, and chaotic community of communities. And that any of their ideology that is that cuckoo crazy that they want to fight about it, that is the manipulation that they accuse others of being under. And if Trump is the glorious golden child sent here to fix it all, the bloody fuck hasn't he fixed a goddamn thing yet? They need to be gently reminded of these realities until they see Trump for the scam artist that he is. Because then, and that may or may not take as long as another 4 years, I've noticed things tend to flow in 4.5, 5 year long cycles. It's like high school, for some reason, imprints us with some sort of schedule that is impossible to escape. But once we achieve that sort of actualization of political, mental liberation, we can then accurately address what's wrong with the left. And here's bottom line why I think we have to go in that order. The right makes it necessary. The right makes it too easy for the left in terms of talking points against the right. The left doesn't have to make up crazy, impossible lies because the right is so busy being crazy impossible. All of the rejection of Trump problematic issues, that was all manipulative, disassociative psyop, right? Like most of what the left was accusing the Trump of being has its valid points. And if the shoes were all on the opposite feet, the same people that love and adore Trump would hate him if he had been a Clinton acolyte Democrat, which he used to be until he randomly changed colors. But if he'd gotten into office as a Democrat, right? The same people who love the exact same guy would be blindly outraged at everything about him. That's the derangement. Everyone else is just going, this guy is beyond the pale, yo. Yes, there's problems on both ends of the political echo chamber, but this guy's trying to use those problems to capitalize and profit for himself above and beyond the typical. And ultimately, unlike his empty threat to lock Hillary Clinton up, I think he has created enough actual real-life legal exposure for him to be that he should be deeply concerned. And that his base will have to deal with the disillusionment of his ultimately, hopefully, knock on wood, that they don't let it all slide for him just to outrage everybody, which is something that's very likely, and I've been calling out from the beginning. I think whatever the system of oppression is doing, or whatever they thought they were going to do with Trump by letting him run, they definitely created the backstop of like, if he gets too big for his own britches, we can take him out of the game, and that will outrage everyone that believed in him, no matter how terrible of a time in office he had. So, I don't know, it cuts both ways, and it's a tricky thing, but let's keep watching closely. And let's keep calling it out, friends. So if you are in the coalition to help end Trumptopia and help heal that half of the nation back into some sense of like, okay, let's deal with reality and real politics and real policy. And yes, there'll be corruption there, but at least it'll be real and not about Trumptopian cuckoo crazy. Let's bring home the point, right? He would not be rerunning for re-election if the system was as evil and as corrupt and as against him as he claims. If Biden was truly the psychopath that Trump wants his base to believe, Trump would be locked up right now, right? Like, my point about Trump not locking up Hillary Clinton is also a point about the system not locking up Trump. Now, conversely, no one on the left made a political campaign promise to irrationally and without a duly, fair trial and all that business, lock Trump up. Now, if Trump had been rounded up and arrested in the first few weeks after 1/6, that'd be a whole different thing, right? And that would be exactly the kind of tyrannical thing that the same people who love Trump were ignoring about Trump's claim and desire and promise to lock her up back in the day. If he'd done so, that would have been exactly the kind of tyranny that they claim the left is guilty of. It's a catch-22 of psychosis, right? Because if you had never heard of any of all of this and you showed up today and you did a cursory survey of headlines and social media postings, what you'd see is an echo chamber of two echo chambers, a double-barreled echo chamber of echo chambers, in which each side is wildly accusing the other side of being pure evil and ignoring all the problems with their own side. One step at a time, friends, we can indeed steer this boat back around in a positive direction. And I've always argued, I've been consistent AF. This is from before Trump, from the earliest days of me expressing my exhaustion with the right versus left versus right, tribalist dystopia that we live in, because that's truly the cause of the American dystopia, right? Is that both parties are engaged in a tribalistic conflict ritual against each other, and there's no way to reconcile it. Therefore, real policy agendas get drowned in the bathwater, and all those policy babies that are actually important get thrown out with the bathwater, and the resulting policies are a grab bag of distractionary, like, throw them a bone or two, and both sides helping each other get away with what they want. We're not quite ready for that deeper level discussion on the exclusively leftist side of the spectrum, and I'm well aware. But if the real silent majority, which is the vast plurality of eligible American voters that for whatever reason just don't vote, if they all joined in on a massive stop the right, end Trumptopia, surge the system with legitimate votes, I think we could finally, round that bend, turn that corner and go, okay, Trumptopia, see, boom. It is undisputable. Y'all took the exaggeration and your malarkey too far. That's done and over with. Please, for the love of God, Trump, just go retire in Florida and host a meaningless podcast that makes you just enough money so that you don't want to run for office ever again. Right? Because free speech and free will are what they are. We cannot be the tyranny that we accuse each other of being. Well, folks, I think I've run out of thinky thoughts for this hot segment. I bid you a fond farewell, and I humbly invite you to visit solo.to/Mr. Seppo. And of course, I always remind you, this show is meant to be interactive, so submit your comments and questions. And if you want to get in on the live chat for the Sprecher exclusive content, I think the most efficient way to do it is to sign up, join Sprecher.com as an audience profile account, and subscribe the show on Sprecher so that you can engage in the chatting and we can get to some live public discourse. Until next time, I thank you so much for tuning in.
and that is the latest madness from behind the orange wall. Thank you for listening to GMT, a special segment of the Almost Daily ZenCast. Stay woke, Trumptopia. Stay woke.